We are live. Let's wait a few seconds to make sure we get everyone in our community present. We have a couple more seconds here, guys.
Let it breathe, folks. Let it breathe.
Let it breathe. Yep. All right. And we are good. Welcome in, everyone, to another installment of the Orange and Blue View. I am one of your co-hosts, Ron White NFL here, actually with the Twitter handle, and my partner in crime, Dylan Von Arx is here. Good evening, Dylan. How are you doing on this lovely Saturday?
I'm doing great, Ron. Just excited to be here another night. We have playoff football tomorrow, so that's exciting as always. Hoping for a Chiefs loss, so, as always, and I hope everyone else is too.
Yes, yes, definitely championship weekend. And of course, it always sucks that the Broncos aren't participating in the championship. Hopefully, we'll get back there one day. But yeah, we never root for a division rival. So again, we're hoping for the Chiefs loss. Hopefully, the Baltimore Ravens come out on top, and they're the representatives of the AFC in the Super Bowl. But let's get to the chat here to see who we got coming in. David McIlrath coming in from the top rope. Thank you, David. You know, your generosity is always appreciated, my man. He says, good evening, Broncos country, Ron, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Hashtag Buckham times 3. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Again, David, thank you very much for your $5 super chat. Much appreciated. And I'm hoping that you're having a great Saturday. All right. Let's see who we got. We got Kevin Gray coming in. Thank you, Kevin. He says, evening, Ron, Dylan, and Scott. Big Mile High salute to Broncos country. Denver Broncos for life. MHH for life. Again, Kevin, thank you for coming in. We appreciate you coming in. And then we got DTR coming in. Denver Broncos for life. Yes, Denver Broncos for life. Denver Broncos country is the only one that matters. So again, thank you for coming in with that. And then we have David Yonkin coming in again with, I guess, a few comments as it relates to our topic here for tonight. So again, thank you, David. This is great. He says, evening, everyone. Main problem is QB. And if Sutton is going to be traded, should the Broncos rely on the draft for wide receivers so it can save on money? And we need a tight end because the ones we have are an issue. Yes, so I guess we can get into that topic here, Dylan. Again, David, thank you for coming in with kind of with your perspective on the team. And yeah, guys, we know that the Denver Broncos have problems across the board. So what we're going to do tonight is highlight 6 problems total that Dylan and I deem that the Broncos should attempt to solve for in preparation for the 2024 NFL season. So I will kick it off to Dylan first to provide, and this kind of goes into what you were saying here, David, as far as maybe one of the problems there. Kick it off to Dylan to tell what his first problem is for the Denver Broncos.
Well, I think many of you can guess what this problem is. It's punting, obviously. No, it's the quarterback position. We've been just discussing and arguing more like about what's the lack of consistency in the quarterback room, whether it's been this season with Stidham or Russ or dating back to Paxton Lynch and those scary days. But overall, yeah, that's the biggest problem. I mean, Russell this season, he had some decent numbers, but more so as an individual, not necessarily helping the team out. The game is played in 4 quarters, not just one. So that's definitely number one on the list.
Yeah, and yeah, we all know that that's the most glaring problem. It's the one that has to get answered before anything else gets answered. What are the Broncos going to do at quarterback? What transpired in this past season, Dylan, with all the drama surrounding Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, and the verbiage in the contract about the injury clause and the benching. And now it's looking like Russell Wilson's out of the door. What is going to happen at the QB position? And that's been the talk, ever since the conclusion of the season. As far as, will the Broncos look at free agency to pick a quarterback, or will they look at the draft, or possibly both? But again, that has to be the focus, or the key, the number one issue that the Broncos do try to solve for sure. So that again, I think we all know that. I would say that my number one, and I guess this kind of goes into the second problem or order of importance that we need to that the Broncos need to look at, is the lack of consistency when it comes to the pass rush. So edge. So with the Denver Broncos do have a few solid players at the edge position. So obviously there's Jonathan Cooper, there's Baron Browning, Nick Bonito. But the Broncos don't have that difference maker, that elite playmaker at the edge position. So they need that player. They need to designate that player as the guy, for opposing teams to account for. We saw that, with Von Miller, way back in, it's been now over 10 years ago now. Yeah, I know. So that's what the Broncos need to try to look at. And again, it's not to say that Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito didn't show promise, because I believe they did, given their youth. Browning had 3.5 sacks, 3 tackles for losses, 8 QB hits this past season. Cooper had 8.5 sacks, 8 tackles for losses, 13 QB hits. Bonito had 7 sacks, 12 tackles for losses, and 18 QB hits. So again, when you look at these numbers on the paper, they don't look bad. But again, it's that consistent player at that position going or trying to tackle your quarterback every play. Also, another key stat I looked at, Dylan, is the pass rush win rate statistic here. So per ESPN, Broncos had the 4th lowest pass rush win rate amongst the NFL teams this year. Now, that number is not just exclusively for the edge, because it does account for players also in that interior defensive line. But if the Broncos can look at, a player in free agency, I believe Daniil Hunter from the Vikings was a name that has been floated out on several occasions, and or looking for, someone in the draft to pair with this young talent, I think that can help. But yeah, I would say the edge position, that lack of a consistent pass rush, is definitely something that the Broncos need to look at when it comes to preparing for that 2024 season.
Yeah, when you look at this roster, when it pertains to the edge position, I see a lot of good depth. Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, there's no real stars. It's good depth. There's good guys to have in rotation, but you don't want them starting. I mean, the fact that even Jonathan Cooper, as a 7th round pick, is doing as much as he did, that's pretty crazy, but still not starter worthy.
Yes, for sure, definitely. Again, need to have that consistent elite player. You guys, it's time for our first sponsor for tonight, and it's brought to you by Little Caesars. So make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL, part of your game day. Pizza for me is a big part of my game day. There'll be several Sundays in a row where I'm looking to order from Little Caesars, kind of, I like my pepperoni, I like sausage, I like bacon. So I'm a big meat guy when it comes to pizza. Sometimes I'll do the pineapple, sometimes I'll do the supreme. So it just kind of depends on my mood for that day. Order online during our pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day on Sunday, and get ready for some football and some fun.
Yeah. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick toppings you crave. Either way, you win. Personally, my favorite, I'm pretty bland. I like pepperoni, but if I want to treat myself, I do the deep dish Detroit style, the cheesy crust, and add in bacon and jalapenos. That makes dinner time a win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery in our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game.
Great. Awesome. All right. And then let's see. We got quite a, I think everyone's on that QB train here. I'll just pull up a few here as relates to Dylan's first. Few stringing here from Michael Davis. Again, Michael, thank you for coming in. Need a QB, enough said. We patch too many holes every year, but ignore the gaping wound at quarterback. And then crazy looking at all the QBs we've drafted that didn't pan out. Yes, Michael. It's, again, if you get that position solved, it'll go a long way. I mean, look at, I hate to talk about our division rivals, but look at how the Chiefs have. No one expected the Chiefs to be in. Well, a lot of people, I would say, didn't expect the Chiefs to be in the AFC Championship this year, given how they played all season. That team, they were dropping a lot of passes. The offense was out of sync, but they do have number 15, and number 15 is carrying them along the way. And that's what the Broncos have been missing all these years of, to your point here, Michael, of having the guy that raises all ships. If he can come in, put this team on his back on a game in, game out basis, that can solve so many things. Well, again, look at what the Texans did with CJ Stroud. First year, I think they won 3 games the previous year, and they now went to 10-7 this past year. So it's just so important to get the right guy. Again, getting a guy is one thing, but make sure you get the right QB to take you far. So good comment there. Good comment there, Michael. All right. Let's see who we have coming in here. Thank you guys for your generosity here. Let's see. All right, DTR with a question in here. Thank you, DTR. We appreciate you. He says, which QB would you like Denver to take a chance on? I think Penix breaks in half after a 40 to 50 sack season. Dylan, I'll let you take this one first. What do you think as far as the QB class, which obviously can be any in the top 3, maybe a few of those that are kind of in those later tiers. What are you thinking as it relates to quarterback for DTR's question?
Well, unfortunately, the top 3 we're not even going to get a chance to look at as an option for Denver. As it pertains to the tier 2 guys, I like a little bit of everything they can do, and especially Penix. I think he played decently well in the championship game, but I think his overall body of work at Washington speaks for itself. Bo Nix, I like him. I don't love him. He's got some things. He gets the ball out quick. He's been good against pressure, but he wasn't pressured a whole lot. And JJ McCarthy, I like a lot of his tools. He's got a big arm. It's just up here is what I worry about. And he didn't throw a whole lot, especially in a championship game. I mean, it was like 15 or 16 times, something insane like that. But yeah, out of those 3, though, I guess I'd have to say JJ. I just like the tools a lot. Even though I did say he's got a small sample size, I think sitting for a year in the Sean Payton system that is complicated for any quarterback, having a rookie sit for a year wouldn't be a bad idea.
Nice. Yeah, I think everyone knows who's my favorite QB person is here. It's going to be out of reach for us. But to take a chance on maybe someone that's definitely within reach, DTR, to answer your question for these purposes, I would either say, and I go back and forth with Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy, and I think I'm going to lean more on the side of Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is a better fit for Sean Payton. I think they're both good fits. But I think Bo Nix is a better fit, and I think he can develop better under Sean Payton. I mean, some of the tape at Oregon with Bo Nix can be very predictable, a lot to be desired. A lot of that horizontal game, taking off and running. And again, those are good toolsy things at times, but I think if he can kind of develop a little bit more with the reads and the passing, I think that'll help. So there's a lot to work with now that I'm viewing more Bo Nix tape and seeing kind of what he can do. Michael Penix, I was impressed with what he put on tape at Washington and even in that championship game against Michigan. But again, I just feel as though with Michael Penix, everything has to be perfect, like with him.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect offensive line, right? I think with timing, receivers have to kind of get in and out of those breaks. I think a lot of those things kind of have to click in order for Penix to succeed. And again, I'm still a little weary when it comes to the Broncos offensive line. Again, that unit has improved this past season for sure. Not taking any way from the strides that they took forward. It's just a matter of that right side, that right tackle. It's still problematic. And with the left-handed quarterback, that blind side on the right side can be a cause for concern. And the injuries. I think we have to see how the medical check out with Penix as well. But yeah, his ability, his talent, I mean, it's great. But if I would have to guess here, DTR, I would say Bo Nix first, JJ McCarthy, and then Penix would be how I rank them. All right. So Dylan, let's get into the second, your second issue for the Broncos to solve. What you got?
Yeah. So obviously there was a lot of problems on defense this year. And one of the biggest ones was their run defense. It was absolutely dreadful.
Atrocious.
They gave up a league high 5 yards a carry. So in 2 runs on 2 downs, you could just make first down, run it, which I'm surprised during our winning streak that teams didn't seem to target that as much, which they probably should have, but I'm not going to complain about that. Yeah, and they were kind of middle of the road in terms of giving up yards and whatnot, but just seeing the defensive line get gashed over and over, and there's just not a lot of talent there. No one to hold them back, so then the linebackers are having to do the work and guessing and maybe overshooting, and just overall just terrible.
Yeah, there's so much tape on just bad run defense. I mean, I'm talking like atrocious run defense. I can pull up a many games where Broncos gave up 8, 9, 10-yard runs. It was just horrible to see. And you're right, that interior defensive line, it definitely needs some work. It needs work from a starting perspective, and it needs depth. At the point of attack, they were just getting handled. They were getting manhandled at the line of scrimmage. And you're right, coming in with some of the linebacker and some of the blitzes and stuff, it just wasn't working. So I think for me, as far as positions are concerned, obviously quarterback, but interior defense, well, edge, and then interior defensive line. Those would probably
Mhm.
be the three main positions that the Broncos will definitely need to look at coming in. So I agree. And we got Mike Naylor coming in with his position.
Oh.
Over here. Thank you, Mike. Says that I agree with tight end, defensive line, quarterback, O line, and cornerback. Yes. So yeah, as far as the order, I just mentioned the order, but yeah, I agree. The O line, I wouldn't say again, the O line for me this year wasn't all bad. I think some positions could be upgraded. Obviously, we know Miners
Mhm.
was the MVP of that offensive line. Bowles did a pretty solid job, but Bowles was good for the most part. And then Powers kind of had hits. It was hit or miss for Powers at times. Had the right
Yeah.
guard position, but I would say overall, I think they still need to address when it comes to depth and maybe right tackle. Definitely getting
Mhm.
a developmental guy there that can form into a starter. But yeah, overall the O line was not bad. But again,
Mhm.
thank you for pointing that out, Mike. That's appreciated. And he also says there's a lot of holes and not a lot of depth. Yes, the depth
Mhm.
we don't talk about enough. Exactly, exactly. So I am going to. Oh, we got Gary coming in here before I get into my second, and we just addressed this, Gary. But I just want to bring you up here. Thank you for coming in, my man. He says, "Good evening, Ron and Dylan. Who do you like at 12? QB, edge, go Broncos." So yeah, I would say like position. Again, it's really going to depend on. I so here's the thing, Gary. I like Bo Nix. I just think Gary and Dylan, you can trade back and still get Nix.
Mhm.
And so that's what I would want to do if your player that you scout a BPA isn't there. So if your BPA player isn't there, and if Knicks is still on the board, I would trade back, accumulate more picks, and you can pick up Boo Knicks later. But if a premier edge is there, I'll probably stay packed and pick him. So yeah, Gary, it's just going to depend on who falls there, at that pick. But yeah, trading back if obviously the top three will probably be gone. So maybe trading back if they prioritize the QB with Bo Nix, but then if they're looking at edge, pick your edge right there. Well, what do you think about that one, Dylan?
Hey, this one's easy for me. I'm definitely taking the edge at 12. There's not a quarterback I would love to take at that spot. There's, like I mentioned before, there's things I like, but definitely not things I love about these second tier quarterbacks. Yeah, like you mentioned, trading back would be the best bet for the quarterback, but if we're sticking at 12, it's got to be edged. If a Dallas Turner or a Latu is there, desperately need help at that position, and if it has
Mm-hmm.
to be between those two, it's got to be edge.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like Jared Verse. Yeah, again, there are lots of players
Of
there
course.
from Florida State. Yep, that can definitely help on that edge group. So yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Gary, for coming in with that super chat. We appreciate it. So now it's time to present our second sponsor for tonight, HelloFresh. So with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking simple, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit.
This time of year, everyone's looking to revamp their eating habits. Look to HelloFresh's wholesome, health forward options like over 30 calorie smart and protein smart recipes each week. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and HelloFresh agrees. In fact, they're giving all subscribers free breakfast for life. That means you'll enjoy a totally free breakfast item with every single delivery. Now that's worth waking up early for.
Yeah, so I've used HelloFresh in the past. Had some pretty good meals. I actually probably should start using them again here. It's not advertising, but It's time to go with HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Go to HelloFresh.com/huddle-free and use code HUDDLE-FREE for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/huddle-free with code HUDDLE-FREE. All righty. So let's get back here to the chat. We got Mike Naylor, and this actually gets into my second uh, problem to solve in 2024. Thank you, Mike. It's good that we're all kind of thinking alike, sharing the same brain. He says, we really need a playmaker on offense. We don't have a star. Yeah, so I would maybe, well, I would kind of push back a little on that last part of we don't have a star. Now he may not be at superstar status yet, but I mean, this year Cortland Sutton was the star of this offense. I mean, what he was able to do. He came back to the Cortland Sutton that we knew like his second year in Denver, with those 10 touchdowns. So I would say, on the star portion, I would push back there and say we do have our star number 14, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we definitely do need another playmaker, Mike. And again, my second is addition of offensive weapons. So I've always been pining for the number 2 pass catcher. Who's going to step up after Cortland Sutton to be a emerging star in this offense? Obviously, we thought that Jerry Jeudy would take that step. Didn't happen. We have Mims that they drafted last year that, he's mostly used in special teams, but, with the speed, and we saw some flashes, Dylan, from Marvin Mims this year, which is very surprising. Remember at the beginning of the season, and that game against the Washington Commanders sticks out. And just to kind of get away from that, it's very surprising. But I would also say, Mike, the playmaker that we need is at tight end. This offense is missing a consistent tight end. And everyone thought that Greg Dulcich was going to be that guy, right? But that hammy of his just can't get it together. It's an hamstring issue. And we thought he was going to come back, late in the year, but that didn't happen. So I would say if we can, I think wide receiver is definitely going to be a position of importance, Mike, especially in the draft, because I don't see Jerry Jeudy on this team much longer. Jerry Judy's going to be gone. And then, if Mims can kind of take that step with another receiver and a tight end that can stretch the seams, I think that'll put the Broncos in a better position offensively.
Yeah, definitely. I know the guy that we both want at tight end is not going to be available to us, most likely, in Brock Bowers from Georgia. But there's some other good tight end prospects in this draft. Definitely, it seems every year the wide receiver talent is just getting better and better, and the class is pretty deep. So Denver should be able to snag another playmaker because, like you're saying, they desperately need one. Sutton can't be the only guy making plays out there. And I like Mims, and right now he's just a go ball guy, just running that 9 route. And if he can expand his route tree, or maybe Peyton can find some more creative ways to put him in this offense that isn't just a jet sweep. I think, it could be very beneficial for this team.
Yeah. Yep. Most definitely. All right. And we got Scott Hansen coming in here. Thank you, Scott. He says Denver needs an elite front 7 to disrupt the offense, pressure the QB. Yes, Scott. Exactly. Some of the problems that we are currently discussing definitely do feed into that. Of that front 7 needs to be more stout. Again, getting playmakers, strengthening that interior of the defensive line, getting those edge players, having people that can help out Zach Allen on the interior. I think if they can get some players through free agency in the draft, I think that'll definitely help with that quarterback pressure. But absolutely. All right, and then we got Ace Boogie coming in, which this is an interesting one because this is free agent and some of the draft prospects here. So thank you, Ace, for coming in with this. He says 1, Justin Fields, 2, Trey Lance, 3, Kyler Murray, 4, Michael Penix Jr., 5, Bo Nix, 6, JJ McCarthy. I guess which one out of those would you pick? Dylan, I'll let you start this one off. Which one?
Personally, I would take. It's probably between Nix and McCarthy. I like the idea of getting a rookie and having that rookie contract. Justin, I've no idea why we would go for Justin Fields. I just don't like the idea of taking, or Trey Lance for that matter. I don't like trying to take a shot on someone else's quarterback. We need to draft and develop within. Kyler Murray, I'd take him, but I don't think he's available. I do like a lot of his game, and he's represents us short kings out here. But yeah, I think it would definitely be between McCarthy and Nix.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dylan. I think ACF for these purposes, my pick is someone in the draft. So yeah, you're going to be looking at 4, 5, and 6 here per your list. I'm sick of going after someone else's, these other teams' quarterbacks. Tired of the bridging, someone coming in trying to help the Broncos. It's time for the Broncos to do it the way it should have been done all along. Is go in the draft, scout your guy, study your guy, go and get your guy and develop him. So again, with that in mind, I kind of ranked mine a little earlier in the show. But yeah, I would definitely say Nix, McCarthy, Penix. Again, would be the order I would take as far as if we're looking at all three, and if all three are there on the board. But yeah, again, it's time for the Broncos to do it the way it should be done here.
Yeah, no more leftovers. We want the full meal, guys.
Right, most definitely. All right, we got String Guy coming in with a question. Thank you for coming in as always, my man. He says, I know everyone wants us to draft a QB, but if none falls to us, what about a player trade for Fields? Perhaps a Judy and Javonte Williams. So with this, String Guy, again, Fields is good. Now, it's kind of hard to really evaluate him just because the whole team for the Chicago Bears, it's just a disaster. So, you saw him running for his life a lot. That offensive line was just terrible. And there's some playmakers out there, but it's kind of hard to evaluate him kind of as a whole. But the reason why I wouldn't want Fields in Denver is because he reminds me too much of Russell Wilson. He's just a younger Russell Wilson. Not to say now, I know he maybe can see the field a little better, but it's, him running for his life, taking off and running. The deep ball from Fields is good, but I see so many elements and traits of Russell Wilson that, I just don't see him being a Peyton guy. So that's why I would say not a Fields, at least for Denver. Now, again, depending on, we could be wrong, but I just don't see it happening. Now, trading, to move up in the draft, that might be kind of where Judy and or Javonte and, we don't want PS2, but again, that's to go. But that's kind of where, some of those player trades may come up in discussions of, you move up possibly to the top 5, or, if Jaden Daniels is falling, right? If he's there at 8, right? And maybe you can kind of discuss moving some players to get up to get a Jaden Daniels, right? So I can see player trades happening for that, but to get a Fields, no, I just don't see it. What do you think about that one, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm over trading for quarterbacks. I think for the next 100 years. I mean, after I think Russell Wilson's traumatized me. I could, in terms of using Judy and Javonte as trade pieces, I could see it. What they're worth, though, is a bit concerning. I don't see Judy getting more than a 4th at this point. Maybe I'm just being a downer, but you're not just getting the player, you're getting his attitude. He just seems hard to work with. He hasn't produced much on the field, and I'd say the same for Javonte. Like, us Broncos fans know how explosive and how powerful he is in the run game, but coming off this season, obviously at around 740 yards, but he just looked sluggish. Obviously, coming off the knee injury, it was even miraculous he played this season. So I just don't see Judy maybe, but Javonte, I don't really see him as a high value trade piece. You're better off just keeping him.
Yeah, and I would say, String Guy, I don't think the player with the highest value on this team is Patrick Surtain. Like, he can be, worth a few first rounders, right? So that would be your movable chess piece again if you want to get up within that range to go grab your quarterback. If one's there for you, the one that you like. But I'm with you, Dylan. That Judy, I don't see more than you can get maybe a 3rd round pick, and definitely with Javonte. Again, given Judy's production, maybe I wouldn't even maybe no 3rd, maybe a 4th round, right? So I guess maybe you look at just trading those and getting those later round picks for him. But yeah, I definitely, String right here to your question. I do not want Fields in Denver. I can see Fields going somewhere to like the Atlanta Falcons, possibly. I think that might be, a better, a better team for him, a better environment for him. But yeah, definitely not in Denver. All right, let's see who else do we have here in the chat. All right, let's see. I got Phil. It's a long one, Phil. Thank you, Phil, for coming in. Again, I appreciate you, my man. He says, "Good evening, Ron, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Yes, we need a Q, but we have a guy that has been a multiple Pro Bowler, appeared in at least 16 playoff games, has won a Super Bowl. What bridge QB is going to match that? If the O-line could open a lane and we had a running back that could take advantage, what a difference that would be. And then where is our big tight end? Why is the play calling not better considering who our coaches are? How about the D getting the ball back to us quicker?" Just venting. Thank you, Phil. Yes. You can come here to vent. We're here to listen, my man. Yeah. So this is a lot here, Phil. I would say, we'll break this down here into a few different segments. So going back to your, I guess the initial comment here as it pertains to the need at quarterback. You're right. Obviously Russell Wilson is all those things you mentioned, right? Playoff caliber quarterback, has won that Super Bowl. But again, you have to look at it, Phil, kind of within the context of the coaching and of the scheme. And again, Sean Payton has his own scheme. And what Russ has done, when we've seen Russ in Seattle, Phil, Russ makes his name for a lot of those off-script plays, right? He's going from right to left, always looking down the field for the home run shot. Whereas though at times in Sean Payton's offense that is needed. Sometimes it happens, but you also see in Sean Payton's offense, quarterback being able to see the field, going through the reads, looking at the middle of the field, attacking the middle of the field. And we just didn't see Russ do that. So I think that's where, kind of part of the problem is. And to your question on the bridge QB, again, we're looking at it from a perspective of familiarity. Now, you know, Jameis Winston comes to mind because obviously there's a familiarity there with New Orleans, and he could be that type of quarterback that can, again, that can come in and again hold that fort down for a little while, kind of run the offense as Sean Payton envisioned. Um, but yeah, I think it's again you have to look at it in the context of the coaching staff with the scheme and can Russ fit with that? Um, Dylan, I'll let you take the other two here as it relates to like the running game. I know you alluded to some of this earlier with the run game needs to get up, and then the tight end. What are your thoughts there for the remaining questions there for Phil?
Yeah, I'm glad you took that first part because I could rant forever on it. I have a lot of opinions on that. So, as it pertains to the running game, I think the run blocking wasn't really that terrible this year. I just don't think we had an explosive playmaker. And Javonte Williams was expected to be that, and obviously with his injury, it just didn't pan out. P. Ryan was better catching the ball, mostly in the fourth quarter. He didn't play much outside of that. And when the brightest spot was McLaughlin, and he wasn't really utilized all that much until the end of the season when Denver was already down and out. So I just don't think they have someone back there that's reliable enough to push the run game forward. I think the O-line did a good enough job to get things done. And our big tight end, it was supposed to be Dulcich. The Broncos weren't planning on him getting injured in the first game of the season and then never returning. And you have Troutman. It shows why he was the backup. Maybe not on the depth chart, but he was the backup, if we're being real about it. But the play calling, I see. The Sean Payton offense does not look like the same one that it did with Drew Brees in New Orleans. He definitely tried tailoring some things to Russ. Quick passes, horizontal stuff, even taking deep shots and whatnot. Maybe could have used some more play action, but overall, this offense was not perfectly tailor-made for Russell, but he did incorporate a lot of things that Russell's good at, and ultimately, it just didn't pan out.
Yeah, and that last portion is good. You saw that Peyton was able to adapt, right? A bit there as to tailor to Russ's strengths. There was emphasis, at least that there was attempted emphasis on the run game. We didn't get the run game that we wanted, but there was tried to be some emphasis there, and then the deep shots at times. But so again, Peyton tried to adapt, but again, it goes back to how Dylan, we normally view what games we've seen from Sean Payton in the past when it comes to New Orleans. It's a lot of that we just didn't see in Denver, just again based on the personnel, specifically Russell Wilson. So, but yeah, Phil, again, good comments, good questions. And again, if you need to vent on anything else, that's why we're here, my man. All right. So the last, I want to get your thoughts, Dylan, on the last problem to solve for the Denver Broncos in 2024.
Sure thing. So I see you have the secondary needs to be bolstered. Yeah, I totally agree because outside of Patrick Surtain, there's and McMillan. He had a breakout year this year. But specifically the boundary at corner, Damari Mathis, huge failure. Moreau came in. He played pretty solid actually for a while, but kind of fell off. It's more than I thought you'd get out of a street free agent. And as it pertains to safety, PJ Locke filled in very well for Kareem Jackson, who couldn't seem to stop throwing his head around and into other players' heads. But and then you have Justin Simmons. Obviously, he's the captain back there, which is great. But PJ Locke is a free agent. Kareem Jackson's not here anymore. You don't really know what you have in JL Skinner. And Riley Moss for using 2 third-round picks to go get him. And just not seeing the field, you can't be too comfortable going into next season with what we currently have.
Yes, and you're right. To kind of expand a little bit more on that, yeah, the second year campaign for Damari Mathis was just a failure. There were so many lapses when it came to coverage. We saw it from the onset, Dylan, of his matchup against the Raiders with Jacoby Myers.
Mm-hmm.
I believe either myself or Thomas had that as a key when we first kicked off the season, and ever since that, it just went downhill. Fabian Moreau came in and, at first was okay, then started to decline. So I agree that the secondary, specifically that cornerback, that corner 3 spot needs to be looked at, because McMillan outkicked his coverage. I think with McMillan, the Broncos definitely need to look at, signing him long term, because what he was able to do when he was inserted into this lineup was great. Just a natural ball hawk, very aggressive. So just kind of seeing those traits on tape, it was good. And you're right on Raleigh Moss. He might be that guy, though. We saw limited play from him this year, but we'll see what happens. And as far as the safety room is concerned, I will say one of the best decisions was inserting PJ Locke in the lineup.
Forcefully inserted.
Yes, forcefully, yes. Because he was just so good. And you don't know what's going to happen with Justin Simmons. I think you just alluded to it, that he's getting old now, and again, he might be a piece for the Broncos, maybe to trade, maybe for later picks, possibly. So, and then JL Skinner, we'll see what happens there. And Caden Stearns is our reliable, right? So we have all of these players, and it's like, but they stay injured, and it's like, well, that's something they'll probably need to start looking at specifically in the draft, as it really pertains to depth.
I even forgot about Caden Stearns. Oh man.
Yeah. All righty. Let's see here. Who else do we have in the chat? Got String Guy coming in again. Thank you, String Guy. He says PS2 is your number one chess piece, but to many teams ahead of Denver needs QBs. I don't see Denver getting into the top 3-4 QB. Yeah. So String Guy, I just don't see it either. Because again, number 2 is going to be your movable piece to get into that range. And again, from what I know, anything can happen, but from what they were saying with the postseason presser, that PS2 is a Bronco lifer, right? And again, and we saw you can build the defense around PS2, so he is that foundational piece on defense. But I can maybe see something happening. Again, it kind of depends on how the board falls. Again, if let's say Jaden Daniels starts to slip, Dylan, right? I think that's where the thing is. The Broncos maybe, let's say they're there with, the Falcons pick at 8, right? Let's say they're 8 or 9 and Daniels is still there, right? Maybe moving up a few from 12 to 8 or 9 to grab him, right? But might be, a more reasonable move, right? Given what the Broncos have, but yeah, all the way in the top three, it's impossible. It's near impossible. I mean, it is a chance. It is possible. It's just a matter of the capital that the Broncos have. It's just
Yeah.
makes it hard.
You have to ask yourself too, does one of those top three teams want to prioritize a corner over a future quarterback? And it's just, I don't see it. But if you're trading PS2, you better guarantee me we're getting one of those top three guys, because otherwise I'm out on it.
Yeah, for me, if we're trading PS2, we better get Caleb Williams in return. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm at, guys. It's we if we really have to get off of number 2, yeah, I'm getting that guy out of USC. So, but again, we will see what happens as the draft talk continues. All right, Dylan, we are running up on about 51 minutes. Let's see here if we have any other comments.
I have one that I'd like to pull up here, just because we were
right.
talking about it before. Ronnie Garcia says, good evening, Ron and Dylan in Broncos country. Who's watching the 2024 Royal Rumble? I want Randy Orton to become champion. Lol, go Broncos. I was telling Ron before the show, me and my brother are huge wrestling fans, and I'll be watching that once we finish up our business here. But I'm excited for wrestling. I always loved wrestling growing up. I got back into it around pandemic, and I hope Gunther wins, for anyone who knows who that is. But thank you, Rodney. Appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, Rodney, I know about Royal Rumble. I used to follow wrestling a lot. I don't follow it as much now, but yeah, it should be a good matchup there for the Royal Rumble. So that'd be good. All righty, thank you again. All right, yes, I don't see any other comments here, so I think we can wrap up here for tonight, Dylan. All right, so thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Orange and Blue View. It's been great to talk to everyone as it pertains to some of our views as it relates to, the problems that the Broncos need to solve in the 2024 season, and kind of sharing some of your perspectives as well. So thank you. If you don't do anything else, guys, make sure you subscribe and like and share across all of the platforms. There's a different pod every day discussing everything Broncos related. And follow us on Twitter as well. So I am at Ron White NFL, and then Dylan at Dylan Von Arts MHH. Again, we're on Twitter every day. So if you have any outstanding Broncos questions, some people send me some, links to film, anything, right? Just make sure you hit us up, and we'll definitely be in conversation with you there. Anything to add, Dylan, before we wrap up for tonight? Any parting words?
Yeah, just another show down, and just happy to see everyone here in the chat. I feel like I'm getting a little more comfortable. Besides, I sent Ron a picture of my setup, and I'm not very comfortable. I'll be moving out here hopefully in a couple months. So I'll have some more space, but so I also won't be this close to the camera as well. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining the show and commenting.
Yes, and again, Dylan, yep, you're doing great so far. So thank you everyone for coming in again, and we will talk to all of you next week. Have a great evening, and go Broncos.
Go Broncos.